To our channel. Today we are going to start the thoracic cavity and pleura. So it's very simple and easy topic. So we know that our lungs are enveloped by means of a serous cavity, which is nothing but also called as the pleural cavity. So actually always there is a slight negative pressure inside the cavity. Why it is present? Mainly to lungs try to retract towards inward and chest cavity tries to retract toward outward. So to maintain them in balance in between, this pleural cavity is always having some slight negative pressure. So what is this pleural cavity divided into parietal pleura and visceral pleura? We will check out this by means of a diagram. So here you can see this is a lung, and here the lung intact layer, the layer which is along with the lung, that is called as visceral pleura, whereas the layer which is outside the, you can see the gap is present, so this outside layer is called as parietal pleura, and the in between this visceral pleura and parietal pleura, the space which is present, that is called as parietal cavity, which is filled by serous fluid. So mainly parietal pleura is divided in turn into many parts, like cervical part. You can see the apex of the lung. This is forming the cervical part because it's nearer to the cervical vertebra. And next it is divided into costal part. You can see this is the costal part, where it is like nearer to the costal cartilages and costal, that is the ribs and thorax cavity. So this is the costal part of the parietal pleura. And next you have the diaphragmatic part of parietal pleura, which is, you can see, like it is on the inferior surface of the base of the lung and the superior part of diaphragm. So it's like called as diaphragmatic pleura, as it is near to diaphragm. And next is called mediastinal pleura, because the mediastinum lies in between two lungs, so this medial side is called as mediastinal pleura, but it forms a lateral border to the mediastinum. So this you can see the mediastinum from the left side and the mediastinum from the right side. Of course we are going to deal about this mediastinum in the next videos, where we will deal it in a new chapter there. So here you can see the pleural cavity mainly limits the expansion of lung, because it's outside, right? So how much the lung should expand, it will not prevent over expanding or also over retracting, so it puts in limit. So pleura is mainly a serous membrane which is lined by mesothelium, that is a flattened epithelium. So it's actually mesodermal in origin, especially the pleura comes from lateral mesoderm. In embryology, as we already know, we have a different type of layers like ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. So mainly from the mesoderm, the middle layer, from the embryological development, from the mesothelium mainly this is arise. And outer layer is called parietal pleura and the inner layer is called visceral or pulmonary. It is also called pulmonary pleura. This is important. The intact layer with the lung is also called pulmonary, of course, as a name as a lung, so pulmonary pleura. So the space between this parietal pleura and the visceral pleura is the potential space. It's not a false place, it is a potential space which is for the forming the pleural cavity. So especially at the hilum, so for example you can see this is the hilum of the lung. So at the hilum of the lung you see the pleura is discontinuous, it's not continuous, it's breaking down. So except at the hilum, everywhere the pleura is covering the lung. And the diseases, there are some diseases where the pleura is filled either by air or fluid or blood or pus according to the different disease. So for example, in the case of pneumothorax, the pleura cavity is filled by air. In the case of pleural effusion, the pleural cavity is filled by fluid. In the case of hemothorax, it will be filled by blood, whereas in case of empyema, it will be filled with pus. So this is all about the pleural cavity with different substances. If it is getting filled, it will lead to pathology or diseases. And at pulmonary ligament, the pleura continues with the parietal pleura. So what is pulmonary ligament? Here you can see this one is a pulmonary ligament. So what they are saying, at the pulmonary ligament, the pleura is continuous with the parietal pleura. So as we know, this is the root of the lung where actually there is no pleura, but parietal pleura will be continuous as a visceral pleura. And you can see the parietal pleura is here back, and this is a root of the lung and this is a pulmonary ligament. So especially the pulmonary ligament, the pleura is continuous with the parietal pleura. Now we'll see some more detail about parietal pleura. So parietal pleura is usually thicker than the pulmonary pleura. The pleura should come. And the parietal pleura, of course, we know the different types already discussed. So we'll discuss in detail about now the costal pleura. So costal pleura line the thoracic wall, ribs, intercostal spaces. As the name costal, you can see. So of course it will cover the ribs. It will also cover the intercostal spaces between the ribs, and it is loosely attached by areolar tissue layer called endothoracic fascia. So it is loosely attached by areolar tissue layer. This costal pleura is loosely attached by areolar tissue layer called endothoracic fascia. And the mediastinal pleura, it's medially present. It lines mainly the mediastinal surface and over the root it continues. So over the root it is continuous as pulmonary pleura, because at the root, as I said, the parietal pleura is not present, so it will of course continuous as a, here you can see the parietal pleura, it will be continuous as a visceral pleura which is intact to the lung itself. So continuous as pulmonary pleura around the hilum. Next, coming to cervical pleura, it extends to the neck because it's on the apex of the lung, right, 5 centimeters above the first costal cartilage and 2.5 centimeters above the medial 1/3 of clavicle. So it's like near to the neck side or cervical side. So it is near to the first costal cartilage, medial 1/3 of clavicle, and also covers the apex of the lung. It completely covers the apex of the lung, and it is covered by, but it is in turn covered by suprapleural membrane, because suprapleural membrane is scalenus minimus muscle origin. It's like covering the whole pleural cavity, whole thorax cavity, and it's also dividing the neck from the thoracic cavity, or cervical cavity from the thoracic cavity. So anteriorly you will have, so anterior to the cervical pleura you will have the subclavian artery, and also you will have the scalenus anterior muscle. So it's like in the cervical region, so anteriorly you can find the subclavian artery, at the same time you can also find out the scalenus anterior muscle, whereas posteriorly you will find the neck of first rib, because its posterior side, on the posterior end of rib it has head, neck. So especially at the neck of first rib you will see the posterior side of cervical pleura, and laterally you can find out the scalenus medius muscle, and medially you will find out the large vessels of neck. So for example, you can see here medially you will find all these vessels like phrenic nerve, vagus nerve, arch of head, so all this will be found medially to the cervical pleura. Next you have the diaphragmatic pleura. As the name you can see, it's like near to the diaphragm, so it lines the superior surface of diaphragm, and also of course it's present in the base of the lung. Here you can see it's present in the base of the lung, and continuous with the mediastinum pleura. Of course it is continuous with the mediastinum pleura. Mediastinum pleura is nothing but the medial side of the pleura, and medially and costopleural laterally. Next, coming to pulmonary ligament. So pulmonary ligament, the parietal pleura only extend from the root downwards, called as pulmonary ligament. So you can see the parietal pleura only extend downwards and form this pulmonary ligament. And the fold have loose areolar tissue, lymphatics, and provide the dead space for the pulmonary vein to expand in increasing venous return in exercise. So mainly you can see this is a pulmonary vein, especially during exercise there is more venous return. So because of that the pulmonary vein will increase in size. So if it is increasing in size, it should have some open space to get increased. So this is a dead space. Dead space means where there is no gaseous exchange, right? So this is a dead space where the pulmonary vein can easily expand, especially during exercise like condition. And also the lung roots are also descending with the descent of diaphragm. As the diaphragm is descending, even this vessels and structures will also descend into the lung root, from the lung root to the pulmonary ligament. Now we will see the recess of pleura. So actually the pleura is having two recesses. One is what are recesses? First we will see. Recess is nothing but the two folds of parietal pleura. The parietal pleura will only fold 2 times and act as a reserve during the expansion of lung in inspiration, especially in the deep inspiration. So when you are having the deep inspiration, we need to have more space inside so that we can accompany more of the air. So that is mainly formed by recess, that is nothing but the two folds of parietal pleura. So mainly we are dividing the recess into 2 types, that is the costo-mediastinal recess and the costo-diaphragmatic recess. So here in this diagram you can clearly see the costo-mediastinal recess of the pleura. So in the name only you can find out costo. Costo means related to the ribs. Mediastinum means medially of the pleura. So this is a costo-mediastinal recess of the pleura, and other one is a costo-diaphragmatic recess. Here also according to name you can see costo means ribs and diaphragm means nearer to diaphragm. So costo-diaphragmatic recess. So these are the 2 types of recess which are mainly formed by 2 folds of parietal pleura of pleural cavity. So costo-mediastinal recess, anteriorly it's behind the sternum and costal cartilage, because it's a mediastinum means it's present like near the rib or the sternum. So anteriorly it's behind the sternum and also costal cartilage, between the costal and mediastinum pleura, and in relation to the clavicular notch of left lung. So it is mainly in relation to the cardiac notch of left lung. So we know that in the left lung we have the cardiac notch, so it is mainly related to that, and this is mainly filled by anterior margin of lungs even in quiet breathing. So even in quiet breathing it is filled by anterior margin of lungs, because this costo-mediastinal recess is somewhat nearer to the anterior surface of the lung, or you can say apex of the lung. Next you have the costo-diaphragmatic recess, which lie of course inferiorly between the costal and diaphragmatic pleura. It's 5 centimeters and it extends from 8 to 10 ribs along the mid-axillary line. So it's actually coming in the mid-axillary line, like mid-axillary line in between the two axilla. So it's in the mid-axillary line, it is coming from 8 to 10 ribs. So especially it's in the lower side, whereas a costo-medial recess is on the upper side, diaphragmatic recess in the lower side. Now let us check out the nerve supply of this pleura. So mainly the parietal pleura is forming from the somatopleuric layer of lateral plate mesoderm. Mainly so it is supplied by somatic nerves. As it is coming from somatic pleural layer, it is supplied by somatic nerves, that is both intercostal and phrenic nerves. So the intercostal nerves, phrenic nerves supply the parietal pleura, and the parietal pleura is also pain sensitive, and the costal and peripheral parts of diaphragmatic pleura are supplied by intercostal nerves. So intercostal nerve mainly supply the costal part and also peripheral part of diaphragmatic pleura, whereas the phrenic nerves supply the mediastinal part and the central diaphragmatic pleura. So this one we need to observe that parietal pleura is coming from somatic layer of lateral mesoderm, and it is supplied by somatic nerve. It is having somatic nerve supply, and also it is intercostal, and those somatic nerves are nothing but intercostal and phrenic nerves. Intercostal nerve is supplying mainly, in the name itself you can see costal, so it will supply the costal and peripheral part of diaphragm, whereas phrenic nerve will supply the mediastinal pleura and also the central diaphragm. So now we'll move on to pulmonary pleura or the visceral pleura, which is mainly coming from the splanchno-pleuric layer of lateral plate mesoderm, and it is supplied by autonomic nerves. So sympathetic nerves are derived from 2 to 5 spinal segments, while parasympathetic nerves are derived from vagus nerve. So sympathetic from 2 to 5 spinal segments, parasympathetic from vagus nerve. So the nerve which accompany the bronchial vessels, this pleura is not sensitive to pain. So as this nerve is accompanying the bronchial vessels, and also it is not sensitive to pain because it's supplied by sympathetic and parasympathetic, mainly from sympathetic 2 to 5 spinal segments, whereas the parietal pleura is sensitive to pain because it's supplied by intercostal and phrenic nerves, which are somatic. So the pain is seen only in the parietal pleura. So you can feel the pain whenever there is any problem in parietal pleura. Even though there is any problem in our pulmonary pleura or visceral pleura, there is no pain here because it is supplied by sympathetic nerves from 2 to 5 spinal segments. So remember, parietal pleura, phrenic nerves, intercostal nerves. Here only autonomic nerves, especially sympathetic nerves. In parietal pleura also the phrenic nerve mainly supply, the name itself you can say phrenic. Phrenic means mainly supply diaphragm. What part of diaphragm? Central diaphragm. And also it supplies the mediastinum, very important. Intercostal, in the name itself you can say costal, so it will supply the costal, and also it will supply the peripheral part of diaphragm. So everyone think only phrenic nerve supply the diaphragm, but even the intercostal nerve supply the diaphragm, that is the peripheral part, but mainly the central part is of course supplied by phrenic nerve, and phrenic nerve also supplies the mediastinum part of the pleura. So these are the important points to remember regarding nerve supply. So finally we will move on to the blood supply. So till now we see the nerve supply, now we'll see blood supply, lymph drainage, and also we'll cover some clinical anatomy, which is very simple. So blood supply and lymph drainage. The parietal pleura, of course, same intercostal, internal thoracic and musculophrenic arteries. So it's like you can see similar to the thoracic wall arteries. The thoracic wall also is supplied by intercostal arteries. It's also supplied by internal thoracic artery and also by the musculophrenic arteries. So the same arteries are also supplying the parietal pleura, and the veins are also same, which are draining. The veins are drained by azygous vein and internal thoracic vein. In the case of thoracic wall, even the same for the parietal pleura. So the lymph also drain into the same names like intercostal, internal mammary, posterior mediastinal, diaphragmatic nodes. And the pulmonary pleura, like lung, is supplied by, so pulmonary pleura is, as a name you can say, pulmonary, and also it is like very intact with the lung, right? So most of the lung vessels only, like lung arteries, lung veins, only they will be here in pulmonary pleura. But in the case of parietal pleura, as it's parietal, it's somewhat nearer to thoracic wall, so thoracic valve structures only supply the parietal pleura. So pulmonary pleura, like lungs, supplied by bronchial arteries and veins, and also they drain into bronchial veins and drained by bronchopulmonary lymph nodes. Now we'll start the clinical anatomy. So clinical anatomy, here we have paracentesis thoracis. So what is this? This is aspiration of fluid from pleural cavity. So sometimes we'll take the fluid out of pleural cavity, especially in the 8th thoracic space in mid-axillary line. So in the mid-axillary line, especially from 8th thoracic place, we'll take out the fluid, especially from the costodiaphragmatic recess where the serous fluid accumulates mostly. So the needle will pass in the lower part of the rib and avoid the injury of vein. Vein means vein, artery and nerve. So already whenever you are passing a needle, there first the skin is pierced, next superficial fascia, next deep fascia, after that the intercostal muscles. After that you will have this structures vein, that is vein, artery and nerve, and next comes the parietal pleura, and next comes the visceral pleura. So remember, only the needle now should go till the parietal pleura, because after piercing the parietal pleura only you will get the pleural cavity. If you go beyond the pleural cavity, it may hurt the visceral pleura and it may also sometimes lead to injury of the lung. So always remember, it should go only till the parietal pleura and go into only the cavity of the pleura. So next you can see the pleurisy. Pleurisy means is inflammation of pleura, and it may be either dry or fluid collection, that is called as pleural. If there is fluid collection, it is called as pleural effusion. So mainly pleural effusion is seen in the pleural cavity, especially in the costodiaphragmatic recess, that is in the base of the lung or in the lower part of the lung. So that's why we do this paracentesis thoracic, that is aspiration, especially only in the 8th thoracic column. 8 intercostal space. So now we will see the pneumothorax. So pneumothorax is air in the pleural cavity. So till now we discussed pleural effusion, where is fluid in air, pleural cavity. Now pneumothorax means air in the pleural cavity. Hemothorax means blood in the cavity, pleural cavity. Hydropneumothorax means, you can see in the word itself, both water and air, both are present in a cavity, pleural cavity. And empyema means pus in the pleural cavity. Next you can see costal plus peripheral diaphragm. So actually the costal and peripheral diaphragm, by this only you will say which nerve and what will supply them. The costal and peripheral diaphragm are mainly supplied by intercostal nerves, right? So if there is any irritation to this intercostal nerve, then what happens? The pain is also seen in the thorax and abdomen, because these are the one which are going to supply the thoracic wall. Of course, some of its anterior branches will also supply the anterior part and lower part of the abdomen. So even the pain is seen there. Next, coming to the medial and central part. So the central part of the diaphragm and also the mediastinum are mainly supplied by our phrenic nerve especially. So if there is any irritation to the phrenic nerve, then the referred pain will be seen in the tip of the shoulders. Why? Because this phrenic nerve is also related to supply the tip of the shoulders. The phrenic nerve branches C3, C4, C5, and the tip of the shoulders is supplied by C3 and C4. So you can see in C3, C4, C5, 3 branches are supplying the central and mediastinum. So if the irritation in phrenic nerve, of course, will also affect the shoulders, because the shoulders is also having a branch of C3 and C4, which is again a branch of the phrenic nerve. So right shoulder pain is seen in the case of inflammation of gallbladder. So in some people will see the inflammation of gallbladder, then there is a right shoulder pain. If there is left shoulder pain, then there may be splenic rupture. So pleural effusion mainly causes the obliteration of diaphragmatic recess, costodiaphragmatic recess. So the main space where the serous fluid accumulates is in the inferior part or in the base of the lung, which is near to the diaphragm, and this is also called as costodiaphragmatic recess, where there is mainly the highest amount of pleural effusion seen. So this is all about our thoracic cavity and pleura. Next we'll start with the lungs.